Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, welcome back.
You know, one thing that I've always found so fascinating
Mm.
is how powerful storytelling can be,
Oh, absolutely.
especially when you're learning English. I
Mhm.
mean, think about it.
Yeah.
We all love a good story, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And today we're diving deep
Uh,
into two really cool pieces of material.
okay.
One is a study guide all about mastering storytelling in English,
Okay, cool.
and the other is called
Yep.
Storytelling in English,
Oh.
Crafting Compelling Narratives.
Oh, nice. So really focus on the how-to.
Exactly.
Love it.
And for all of you out there listening
Yeah.
who are eager to learn,
Yes.
but maybe don't have hours to pour over every single page.
Right. You got to maximize that time.
That's us too.
Effort.
So
Yep.
that's what this deep dive is all about.
Okay, sounds good.
We're going to extract the absolute key insights from
What?
these resources
Yeah.
and break down why storytelling is such a valuable tool for you as English learners. And of course, give you the tools and
Yeah.
techniques to become amazing storytellers yourselves.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig into this.
Me too.
Both of these sources
Yeah.
really highlight that storytelling is not just some fun little extra.
Right.
It's actually a fundamental way to boost your language skills.
It is.
And they both point to some really
Uh-huh.
compelling advantages for English learners.
Yeah. So let's jump right into those benefits.
Okay, let's do it.
One of the biggest things both sources emphasize
Mm-hmm.
is fluency
Okay,
and how telling stories can really help you in that area.
makes sense.
It's different than,
Yeah.
just reciting something you've memorized.
Right. It's not just about
Right.
like a pre-prepared speech or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about being in the moment.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And both the study guide and the narrative piece talk about this idea of thinking on your feet.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, you're not just recalling
Yeah.
phrases from memory. You're actually
Right.
constructing sentences spontaneously,
Yes.
adapting your language as you go to keep the story moving.
It's like you're in the flow.
You are.
Yeah.
You're in the flow. You're in the zone.
And that's where the magic happens.
Exactly. And that's what really helps you become more fluent.
Yes, because you're not stopping and starting.
Right. Exactly. You're not overthinking the
Yeah.
grammar. You're not,
Yeah.
translating in your head.
Right.
You're just letting the story come out naturally.
And you know what else I find really helpful about storytelling?
What's that?
Is that it helps you learn new vocabulary.
Yeah.
Much better than just,
Right.
studying a list of words.
Totally agree.
I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
I remember words so much better when they're part of a story.
Oh, absolutely. And both sources really emphasize this idea.
Okay.
They talk about how stories weave new vocabulary into a context that makes sense.
Right.
So instead of just seeing isolated words on a page,
Uh-huh.
you're encountering them as integral parts of a narrative.
Yes.
And that context, plus the emotional connection you might feel with the story,
Yes.
it really makes those new words stick in your memory.
It does. It's like they have a home.
They do. They have a home.
Yeah.
They have a purpose.
Exactly.
They're not just floating around in your brain.
They're not just random words.
Exactly.
They're connected to something.
Exactly. And that's what makes them so much easier to remember.
Totally. Now let's talk about grammar.
Okay.
Because I know a lot of English learners,
Yeah.
myself included sometimes,
Wow.
get so caught up in trying to be grammatically perfect
All right.
that it actually makes them stumble when they're speaking.
Oh, yeah, that fear of making mistakes.
It's real.
It's so real, it can really hold you back.
It does.
Yeah.
But both of our sources actually suggest that storytelling can be a really good way to practice grammar.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, they talk about how it provides
Uh,
a kind of low-stakes environment
okay.
because the main goal is to share a story. Listeners are more focused on the narrative itself.
Yeah, they're caught up in the story.
Exactly.
They're not analyzing your every word.
They're not like grammar police.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a space where you can experiment
Uh-huh.
with different sentence structures.
Yeah.
And just get comfortable with using grammar in real time.
Yeah. And internalize it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Through actually speaking.
And without that pressure
Yeah.
of having to be perfect.
That's so key.
Right.
Because when you're relaxed and you're enjoying yourself,
Uh-huh.
that's when the learning really happens.
Absolutely. Now, another thing I've noticed about storytelling
Yeah.
is that when someone tells a story with expression,
Right?
using different tones and emphasis, it just
Uh-uh.
sounds more natural,
Yeah.
more English somehow.
You're so right. And
Yeah.
both sources talk about the importance of pronunciation and intonation in storytelling.
Okay.
They explain that when you tell a story, you naturally become more expressive. You vary your tone, you speed up, you slow down,
Yeah.
you change your volume to really bring the story to life.
It's like you're painting with your voice.
You are.
Yeah,
It's like adding all these different colors and textures
Yeah.
to your speech.
It makes it so much more engaging
It does. It draws the listener in.
and so much more understandable.
Absolutely.
So beyond just the language itself,
Okay.
the sources also touch on something broader, which is gaining insight into different cultures.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
Because stories are such a powerful way to learn about
Yeah.
different cultures.
They are.
I mean, they give you a window into
Yeah.
different values, beliefs, worldviews.
It's like stepping into someone else's shoes.
It is. And both sources really emphasize
Uh-huh.
the importance of this cultural understanding.
Yes.
So they say it enriches your learning.
Yeah.
It goes beyond just the language itself.
It does.
And it helps you connect with people
On a deeper level.
on a much deeper level.
And I can also imagine that just being able to tell a story,
Yeah.
even a simple one
Mm.
in English,
Yeah.
must be a huge confidence booster.
Oh my gosh, it is.
Yeah.
Both sources talk about this confidence building aspect.
Uh-huh.
They say that being able to share a story, no matter how straightforward,
Yeah.
is incredibly empowering.
It is.
It shows you that you can communicate.
Yes.
You can connect with others.
And it motivates you to keep going.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
like fuel for your language learning journey.
And of course, it's not just about telling stories.
Right.
It's also about listening to them.
Yes.
And our sources point out
Uh-huh.
that active listening
Yeah,
is incredibly beneficial for English learners as well.
it is.
Because when you listen to others share their stories,
Yeah.
you're not only improving your comprehension skills, you're
Right.
also picking up new vocabulary.
Mhm.
You're getting exposed to different storytelling styles,
Yeah.
different ways of using the language.
Just like a master class.
It is.
Yeah. You're learning from the best.
Okay, so we've talked about the why of storytelling.
Okay. The benefits.
Now let's get into the what.
The structure.
Exactly.
The actual structure of a good story.
Okay, let's break it down.
Both of our sources
Uh-huh.
talk about this classic plot structure.
The classic 5 parts.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do they say about that?
So both the study guide and the narrative piece outline a very similar structure
Okay.
that starts with what's called the exposition.
The setup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where you introduce the setting,
The time and place.
the time and place,
Yeah.
the main characters,
Yeah.
and the initial situation.
Okay, so it's like setting the stage, giving
setup.
us the who, what, where, when.
Exact
They-
foundation
everything.
of the story.
Yeah.
And then we move on to the rising action.
Okay, things start to get interesting.
Yes, this is where the tension starts to build. We introduce conflicts,
Okay.
and the story starts moving towards its most important moment, the climax,
Exactly.
the peak of the story.
The climax is the turning point.
Uh-huh.
The moment of highest tension or excitement.
The edge of your seat moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then after the climax, we
Okay.
have the falling action.
Things start to settle down.
Yes, this is where we see the consequences of the climax.
Right, the aftermath.
Yeah. And the story starts moving towards its conclusion.
Okay.
And that final stage is the resolution.
Where everything comes to a close.
Yes, all the loose ends are tied up.
Uh-huh.
And we get a sense of closure.
Satisfying ending.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the overall plot.
Okay.
But of course, a story is nothing without its characters.
The people who bring it to life.
Exactly. And both sources highlight a few key character types.
Okay, who are we talking about?
So first you have the protagonist,
The main character.
the main character,
Yeah.
the one we're usually rooting for.
Right, the hero of the story often.
Yeah. Then you have the antagonist.
The one who creates conflict.
Yeah. Exactly the character or force that opposes the protagonist.
Okay.
And then you have the supporting characters.
The ones who add depth and complexity.
Right. They play a role in the story,
Uh-huh.
but aren't the main focus.
Okay.
And the key here, according to the sources,
Yeah.
is to make all of these characters believable.
Right. We need to understand them.
Yeah.
Their motivations, why they do what they do.
And we need to care about them.
Exactly.
And then, of course, we have the setting,
The time and place.
the time and place where the story unfolds.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than just background scenery.
Right. It's like another character almost.
It is.
Yeah.
It sets the atmosphere. It influences the mood.
Uh-huh.
And it can even directly impact the plot.
And both sources really stress the importance
Mm-hmm.
of using descriptive language
Yes.
to bring the setting to life.
To paint a picture for the listener.
Exactly, to make them feel like they're actually there.
Now, a story without conflict
It's kind of boring.
is like a cake without sugar.
Right.
It's just missing something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Conflict is what drives the plot forward.
The engine of the story.
Exactly. And both sources talk about two main types of conflict.
Okay, what are they?
Internal conflict,
Okay.
which is the struggle within a character's own mind.
Right, like a tough decision.
Yeah, or a moral dilemma.
Uh-huh.
And then there's external conflict,
Okay.
which is a struggle between a character
Uh-huh.
and an outside force.
Like another person.
Another person, nature, society.
Hi.
Yeah, anything outside of themselves.
So you've got that inner battle,
Yes,
and then you've got the battle against the outside world.
exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And a lot of times,
Mm.
a story has a deeper meaning.
A message.
Yeah, something beyond just the sequence of events.
Right.
And that's what we call the theme.
The underlying idea.
Exactly, the central idea or message that the story explores.
Okay.
And these are often universal concepts like love, loss, courage, good versus evil.
Right, those big questions.
Exactly.
And then finally, we have point of view.
The perspective.
Yeah, how the story is told,
Good.
who's telling it,
Right.
and the sources briefly touch on the common points of view.
Okay.
So first person, where the narrator is a character in the story.
Okay.
Then second person,
Less common,
less common.
but still out there.
It's still out there.
Yeah.
And then third person,
He, she, they.
yes, where the narrator is an outside observer.
Okay.
And third person can be either limited,
Okay.
where the narrator only knows the thoughts and feelings of one character,
Uh-huh.
or omniscient,
All-knowing.
all-knowing,
Yeah.
where the narrator knows everything about all the characters and all the events.
Okay, so those are the basic viewpoints.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've got the building blocks of a story.
The ingredients.
Now, how do we actually put them together?
Right. How do we make it delicious?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the sources offer some really practical techniques.
Okay, I'm ready.
The first one that jumps out at me
Uh-oh.
is show, don't tell.
Oh, the golden rule of storytelling.
Yes. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yeah, it's a classic.
It is, and it's so important.
It is because it's
Mhm.
the difference between
Uh-huh.
just stating facts
Right.
and actually immersing your listener in the story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So instead of saying she was nervous,
Yeah.
you could say something like,
Uh-huh.
her hands trembled as she gripped the microphone,
Oh, I like that.
and she avoided eye contact with the crowd.
Much more vivid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the other sources gives a similar example. Instead of saying he was angry,
Mm-hmm.
you could say
Okay.
his fists clenched and his voice rose with each word.
Powerful.
You can feel the anger.
You can.
Yeah.
Right there in those words.
And that's the power of showing.
Yeah, it's all about creating an experience for the listener.
Exactly. And showing often goes hand in hand
Uh-huh.
with using vivid language.
Oh, yes. Paint those pictures with your words. Yeah.
Employing descriptive adjectives and adverbs
Mhm.
to create those strong mental images in your listeners' minds.
Make them see it, feel it, smell it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of our sources gives the example of transforming.
Okay.
The simple phrase, it was a house,
Boring.
right?
Yeah.
Into, it was a dilapidated Victorian house,
Mm.
its paint peeling like sunburnt skin and a musty odor clinging to the air.
Ooh, I'm there. I can smell that musty odor.
Well, you're transported to that house.
Yeah.
And then there's dialogue.
Oh, yes. Dialogue is key.
It is.
It brings the characters to life.
It does.
It reveals their personalities,
Mhm.
their relationships.
It moved the plot forward.
Exactly. It does so much.
Yeah, and both sources suggest paying attention
Uh-huh.
to how people actually speak.
Right. Real conversation.
Real conversations,
Yeah.
using contractions,
Uh-huh.
even slang where appropriate,
Yeah.
and varying the sentence structure.
It's got to sound natural.
It does. Yeah.
Okay, what about suspense?
Oh, suspense. That's what keeps us hooked.
It is.
Keeps us wanting more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And both sources mention techniques like foreshadowing.
Oh, foreshadowing. I love that.
It's so powerful.
It's like dropping little hints
Yeah.
about what's to come.
Like leaving breadcrumbs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Little clues for the reader to pick up on.
And it creates that anticipation.
Yes.
Yeah.
That, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I know when I get really engrossed in a story,
Uh-huh.
the pace can feel like it changes.
Right. Sometimes it speeds up. Sometimes it slows down.
And that's actually something that storytellers
Uh-huh.
do consciously.
They do. It's a technique.
It is.
Yeah.
Varying your pace
Mm-hmm.
can really keep the listener engaged.
It can, and it can also create different effects.
Okay.
So if you speed up during an action scene, it creates excitement, urgency.
Yeah.
You feel like you're right there in the middle of it.
Your heart's racing.
Your heart's racing, exactly.
Yeah.
And then if you slow down
Uh-huh.
during a moment of reflection or description,
Yeah.
it gives the listener time to absorb.
Yeah, to savor the moment.
Exactly.
Okay, and then we have figurative language.
Oh, yes, the spices that add flavor to the story.
Exactly, and both sources mention similes.
Okay, or as comparisons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
His smile was like sunshine.
Oh, I like that.
Right, and metaphor.
Direct comparisons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where you say something is something else.
Right.
Like her words were daggers.
Ooh, powerful.
And then personification.
Giving human qualities to non-human things.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
the wind whispered secrets through the trees.
I love that.
These techniques really add richness.
They do. They make the language come alive.
And they make the story more memorable.
Absolutely.
Now, I know all of this can feel a bit overwhelming.
Right, especially if you're just starting out.
Right.
Yeah.
But both sources really emphasize the importance
Of embracing imperfection.
Oh, that's so key.
It is.
Because so many language learners get caught up in trying to be perfect.
And it paralyzes them.
It does. It stops them from even trying.
Exactly. And one of the sources even says that minor errors are often overlooked by listeners.
Right.
If the narrative itself is engaging.
Yeah, people care more about the story
They do.
than about perfect grammar.
So the most important thing
Yeah.
is to just start telling stories.
Exactly. Get out there and practice.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Mistakes are how we learn.
They are.
Yeah.
Now, besides just telling stories,
Uh-huh.
what else can English learners do
Sure.
to improve their storytelling skills?
That's a good question.
Well, both sources recommend
Uh-huh.
practicing active listening.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
It is.
Because when you listen to other storytellers,
You're
you're learning so much.
absorbing.
You are techniques.
Yeah, you're picking up new vocabulary. You're seeing how they structure their stories.
Like osmosis.
It is.
Yeah.
You're just soaking it all up.
And then the other thing they recommend
Yeah.
is starting small.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
don't try to tell like this epic saga.
Hey, don't write War and Peace just yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Start with a short anecdote,
Okay.
a personal experience,
A little story.
story,
Yeah.
something simple. And as you get more comfortable and your confidence grows,
Yeah.
then you can start expanding.
Gradually increase the challenge.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so to wrap up our deep dive today,
Okay.
we've explored how storytelling is not just enjoyable,
Right.
but also an incredibly powerful tool for English language learners. We've looked at the essential components of a good story.
The structure,
The structure.
the characters, the setting.
All of it.
Yeah.
And we've also learned some practical techniques to make your stories more engaging.
Tips and tricks.
Tips and tricks.
Yeah.
And most importantly,
What's that?
we've learned that it's okay to embrace imperfection.
Yes. Don't let perfection be the enemy of good.
Especially when you're just starting out.
Exactly.
Focus on communicating your story,
Mm-hmm.
connecting with your listener, and
Yeah.
having fun.
Because that's what it's all about.
It is.
Yeah.
So as we leave you today, think about this.
Yeah.
How could you start incorporating
Yeah.
even small elements of storytelling into your everyday English practice?
Oh, I'm not like that.
Could. Thinking about a simple event from your day
Uh,
and framing it as a little story
yeah.
make your learning journey more interesting and effective.
Oh, absolutely.
And maybe even try telling that little anecdote to a friend or a language partner.
Yeah. Share the story.
It's all about embracing the journey
It is.
and the power of sharing our experiences.
I love that.
Thanks for exploring this deep dive with us today.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.